experts that are in the house to have this open discussion. So even as the discussion goes on, please ensure to take note of your questions. There will be time later on to have those questions addressed. Just a few not really house rules, but things that we can take note of. For those of us who might want to visit the two most important rooms, I think we know what those rooms are. For the ladies, if you pass through the kitchen and go upstairs to your right is a restroom. And for the men, just as you enter at the front door I literally have to do this, otherwise I get confused. Yes, to your left are the restrooms. Okay, all right, are we excited? Those one, I don't think. Can I get a hallelujah? No, I'm joking. But yes, let's just be excited and expectant. We are really glad to host you this evening, and we look forward to having a really, really inclusive discussion. And yes, let's make those linkages. I hope by now you've exchanged some business cards. Just giving you a tip. You never know who's sitting next to you. So get those connections, exchange some business cards, and just, yes, let's get ready for the conversation. All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Hive. I've told most of you welcome to the Hive. This should be the 100th time I'm saying welcome to the Hive. I hope this info session will be insightful for you. Yeah. So I am the Hub Manager at Hive Co-working. So I'm here to talk about my 1 minute to talk about my space. 1 minute. Yeah. So this is a co-working space as well. In as much as we do innovation consult and such events, we also have a co-working space. So that means that we rent out offices for as little as a day to long term. We also have boardrooms. We also have this event space and the outdoor space. So if you've got an event that you need to host, but you don't have a place where to be, you can come to the Hive. So if you're interested, you can see me after the info session or whenever, then I could send you just a rate card of our bundled pricing at the Hive. Yeah, so it's good to see all of you. Yeah, I hope you enjoy this info session. Yeah, thank you.
You can introduce me then.
All right, a round of applause, ladies and gentlemen, for our panelists. So I will, first of all, take the liberty to just thank you so much for affording us your time to come and have this really interesting conversation on interoperability and open banking. I hope we can all pronounce that word in here. Interoperability. So you just sort of make it into two words, and open banking. I'll also then at this particular juncture just hand over to our moderator, who is Chisanga, and Chisanga will then take the honors of introducing our panelists. Thank you.
Thank you for that. So again, my name is Chisanga Mkasanga, digital transformation consultant, and I'll begin by running through the agenda for today. So a bit of housekeeping. If you do want to use the bathrooms, there'll be someone to help you from Bongo Hive. So today's discussion will be on maximizing fintech potential through interoperable solutions and open banking. We're privileged to have assembled an esteemed guest of panelists, as you can see in front of me, from the financial sector with their insights on the future of interoperable solutions, as well as open banking. I'd like to also thank Bongo Hive for hosting us here today and providing us with the opportunity to explore today's theme. So the adoption of open banking among fintechs and traditional institutions has potential to revolutionize the financial sector and provide more accessible and affordable financial services to the unbanked by leveraging interoperable solutions, open banking, that the financial industry can create more inclusive and financial ecosystems that serves the needs of all Zambians. The difficult word, interoperable solutions, offers the ability to offer different financial technology systems that work seamlessly. This includes the ability to transfer data, funds between different systems, regardless of their technology stack, platforms, and underlying infrastructure. By promoting interoperability, the fintech industry can create more integrated and connected financial solutions, allowing greater innovation and competition. And then open banking, on the other hand, is the practice of allowing third parties, providers, to access bank data and customer information through consent. So this opens up new opportunities for fintechs and companies offering financial services and products and services that are more personalized. This includes budgeting, investment advice, insurance, and so on and so forth. By integrating with banks and other financial institutions, fintechs can provide customers with greater range and options and more convenience with choice. I invite you to join the conversation with our panelists. Once we run through the questions, we'll have a session where we'll have a Q&A from the audience, so you will be able to participate and ask the panelists a few questions. So I'd like to introduce our speakers. We have, I'll actually ask them to introduce themselves. I think we can start from right to left. So at least they can give us a bit of background as to what they do and the organization that they're representing today.
Thank you, Chisanga, and good afternoon. So my name is Wisdom Shanigeta. I'm the Chief Technology and Operations Officer at Stanbic Bank. So I am responsible for IT operations as well as the other operations, the core operations of the bank. So that's what I do. Thank you.
Good evening. Hope I'm audible enough. My name is Brady Chimove. I'm head of sales and marketing Kazan. Yeah, so obviously we'll delve into who Kazan is and what we do at a later stage. But currently that's what I do.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Jimmy Kuvaras from Bank of Zambia. I'm Assistant Director, Payment Systems Development and Operations. That division is responsible for regulatory policy as well as licensing. So when you're a payment service provider and you want to get a license from the Bank of Zambia, that's a division that would handle such an application. Thanks.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Francis Wanga. I work for Zambia Electronic Clearing House in administration. I'm the Chief Executive Officer. My specialization on what I like doing and what I do is I'm a business manager by training. So my focus is business turnaround, and that's what I do. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So I think we can dive straight into the discussion and not to attack the regulators, but I think my first question is for Jimmy Kuvaras. How would you define interoperability in the context of financial technology? And why is it important to foster innovation in the Zambian fintech sector?
The mics give you the impression that you're not audible, but I suspect somewhere we are audible. You know, technology. So when we're looking at interoperability, really it's the ability of one system without not applying too much effort. So ability of one system to be able to communicate with another system. So if you look at the financial landscape like in Zambia, traditionally, really it's been the banking sector that's been providing financial services. Now, as we are opening up the banking sector, the non-banking sector also providing these financial services, are the two systems, whether it's between two banks or between the non-bank and the commercial bank, are they able to communicate with one another? If you bring in players like the MNOs, if you look at the concepts that previously we've been or the ICT sector is traditionally used to, you find that the rules that apply in the ICT sector may not be immediately applicable for the financial sector. If you look at patterns like maybe if I send a message, an SMS, naturally you want to retry and ensure that that message has reached the other side. In the financial sector, that would mean maybe, does that imply, are you sending money twice? So the rules may be different, and interoperability is now, are we communicating between two systems properly? Are you understanding? To make it simple in maybe social language, are we both speaking English and can we understand each other? Are the validation rules on your end, are they applying on both ends? And if I send this, your expectations, are you understanding me effectively? Are we communicating effectively in machine language between two systems, whether it's from a commercial bank or it's from a non-bank sector? And how does that impact with innovation? With innovation, we want, whether it's a small guy or a big guy, to be able to access the market and be able to offer their services to the public. And if you have interoperability, that means I can be able, whether it's a big player or it's a small player, I have the systems, I have the rules, I have the protocols and safeties that allow me to be able to communicate with another financial player in a safe and effective manner, and they understand me, and there are enough protocols in place to safeguard that communication. So basically, it's interfacing between two systems, and there's effective communication for that. For those messages, or whether it's funds, to be able to be understood between two systems.
Thank you for that. Here's an interesting note. I actually met Mr. Kovaras in 2017, back when I had a fintech solution, and I can confirm that the fintech landscape has improved and is actually very easier now for me to then set up something. And then with the likes of National Financial Switch, I can easily integrate with other players in the fintech and the banking space. So just to pose this question also to Mr. Wisdom Shilingeta from a banking perspective.
So thank you, Tsanga, and thank you, Jimmy, for being the forerunner. Just, I think, adding to what Jimmy has said, and I'll talk a bit more from a commercial bank perspective. I think he has already explained that interoperability is about integration of the operations of different financial organizations by handshaking through various connection avenues like APIs, connecting two organizations directly on a bilateral relationship perspective or more. Further to that, you can even integrate through a switch, like the National Financial Switch. And I think Dr. Lonje is going to talk to that quite a bit. So interoperability then gives the players a platform for sharing resources, which is the competing resources, but also sharing their customers actually. And because we share customers, how does it play into the fintech space? The banking will always be about taking deposits, making loans or giving advances, investments, insurance, trade. That does not change, but how that is done changes. Particularly when we talk about fintechs, which is just an acronym of financial technology. They are playing more in the payment space, but more and more there's an opportunity for them to also play into other areas. They're coming up in areas of lending, and we'll discuss a little more in that regard. But just to stop there for a start, we'll pick up momentum as we go on. Thank you, Sandra.
Thank you. Maybe Mr. Bradley, can you kindly speak briefly on how fintech startups in Zambia can benefit from interoperability and what are the key challenges they face from achieving it? Just to mention, as a new fintech, you may have a challenge of trust, gaining customers' trust, and how do you then build that? Maybe you could speak also to your journey in Kazakh and how you brought about trust in your customers.
All right. Thanks a lot, Sanga. I really believe there are two issues that are underplayed in this country. And for me, I think the biggest game changers in this the current environment in this country are two things. One is the NFS, the National Financial Switch, and two is mobile money. Quote me on this one. These two will change the landscape of the financial sector in this country. And I'll tell you why. What the NFS is, as Dr. Longa will further elaborate, is an organization bringing all financial players and commercial banks in one room and saying, can you talk to each other? Can you play with each other? Can you transact with each other? What that has done is that it has made it possible for a woman in Chelenge to walk to a booth and withdraw money from her Stanbic account or her EcoBank account. And we've heard the term financial inclusion. Sounds so cliche, but literally that's what the NFS has done. for Kazan, I stand to be corrected, Doctor, but I think we were the last ones to join, but the first to integrate. I think so. I think so. And to fully integrate. And we found ourselves alone there waiting for others to come and play with us. But on a more serious note, we saw the NFS as the answer to what we've been looking for as a fintech. So a fintech is basically a company that brings finance and technology together, okay? Making it easy for people to access financial services and products using the technology provided by that fintech. That's what a fintech is. So as Kazan, we were looking for something to do that. And before the NFS even came on board, what we did was we approached banks and we would say to them, look, can we directly integrate with you? And when you integrate with us, a customer or an agent or anybody in Mongo that sees a Kazan machine can go to a Stanbic machine, and a Kazan machine will be able to access Stanbic services from any of our 13,000 devices. Of course, that was a challenge because we had to individually integrate with each bank. And for some of the banks, we are seen as potential enemies, people who take business away from them. For some banks, the smaller banks saw us as an opportunity to increase their footprint. So we got a few banks on board, and fortunately, the NFS came on board. And what the NFS has done to Kazan is that they've made it possible for us to have the banks and the mobile money, all the MNOs, Airtel, MTN, Zambia, and Spain, to be able to be available on the Kazan devices. So remember, we've got 13,000 plus devices out there that are transacting. So what this literally means is that the NFS has made Kazan a bank, or that Kazan agent in Shangombo has become a bank because somebody can go there and deposit and withdraw with some banks. With mobile money, they can cash in and cash out. And on top of that, it creates an income or revenue generating opportunity. So I don't want to go on and on. I can go on and on. I'll close there. And then at a later stage, probably give you an idea of where Kazan started from and how we ended up here. Thanks.
Yes, so we're already seeing the benefits of how open banking is improving digital inclusion. We're able to integrate with other banks. You're sharing customers that you previously didn't have from other banks. Yes, so now, yes, please go ahead.
We have fintechs here, startups. Anybody? Prospective, or those who are near maturity or maturity and so on.
Don't feel shy. There's one in the back. There's another one on the left.
Don't feel shy. I remember in I think that was 2012 or 2013. I did a research for financial sector development Zambia. And it was, I think, my first time to interact with Bongo Hive. I did a session and so on. And in that research, I was required to provide at least 5 fintechs to FSD then to help with the demand side of the product I wanted to roll out. Is it MP4, M4P, making markets work for the poor and so on. So I went around. I think I spoke to about 9 fintechs at the time. Today I can only remember one still existing from that time, which is Progress. And the others, I don't know where they are. They could be around, but I just forgotten their names. But the challenge that we have in Zambia, not only Zambia, but even in the region, as startups, fintechs, as you may call yourselves, is it's good to have an idea, okay? It's good to come from school, coding and so on, get to something. That's good. Is that what the market needs? Maybe yes, maybe no. If it's what the market needs, are you the best person to sell it to the market? As a tech enthusiast or as a fintech, or you need somebody who knows how to sell? I don't know, okay? Have you tried to go around as a fintech startup to look at what problems are in the market, in the environment, which you need to sort out? Have you done that? That requires some investment, okay? And Zambians, we don't want to invest because if we invest, we want to see the money tomorrow. No Zambian invest and wait for 2 years to start harvest. No Zambian will do that. Only a few, while you invest, you know that you've got enough left over. Even if you lose that investment, capital, whatever you call it, you'll be able to sustain, okay? Very few go around to go and search for problems and find a solution. I'm sure most of you here pay for DSTV online. I'm sure some of you pay for your children's school fees or your school fees online. Okay. Do you receive the receipt? Anybody was received the receipt? You pay your children's school fees at Lakeroad or wherever you receive it online, either Airtel or Tengo or whatever thing, and get a receipt? That's an opportunity. So if something happens, how do you convince the school that I paid? All the evidence is with the school. If they say we haven't received your money, who are you going to talk to? Or what evidence are you going to provide? Okay, it's a huge challenge. That's an opportunity for a fintech. As a startup, how do you? It doesn't have to be physical receipt. If I receive my receipt through email, I can print it. Does DSTV or MultiChoice do that? Does your school or anywhere you pay give you a receipt? Okay, so there are a lot of opportunities, but we don't want to take time to research, invest in research, and come up with, is this solution going to? Remember, when you're, as a fintech, you're providing a solution. Profitability, gains, or whatever should be the last thing you think about. The solution you're trying to sort out should be the first thing to think about, okay? So if you have to borrow from family to say, look, if this happens, we'll all be better off than we are. If it doesn't happen, it still doesn't make us any worse. So as startups, the opportunities are there. Interoperability, it means there's an existing marketplace where different players from different languages, walks of life, have come together using a common defined route or language that you can speak as one, okay? The road from here to Chipata, that's interoperable. You can use a Corolla, a Benz, truck, and whatever, and so on. So if a colleague was saying, look, the speed limit, they say it's 100. For a truck, it's okay. Because when a truck is doing 100, to stop if it's got a load, 30 tons, it takes about 10, 15 minutes to come to complete stop. But the Range Rover, it will stop immediately. So I can do 200 and still stop better than a truck. But hey, this is the language you speak as interoperability. Stick to the rules. Doesn't benefit anyone, but it benefits everybody. Thought I could just add.
Thank you very much for that. Seeing as we have some of the already established players in the game here, I'll move on to our next question, which builds up on that. How can fintech startups and traditional financial institutions work together to drive interoperability in Zambia? And what are some of the considerations and collaborations? I'd like to add, doing some research, some of the enablers of interoperability could be shared cloud infrastructures, improved standardizations when it comes to API integrations. We're thinking Mr. Kovaras, on Trust eKYC. So what are some of those initiatives that can be done to encourage innovation? I'll start with Mr. Chikombe. Yes.
So I'll just give an idea of basically some of you have seen Kazan before. I've actually gone to some places that I reached there and somebody looks at me and says, "Oh, Kazan in the company," because they look at the machine and they think that is Kazan. Okay, but we literally started about over 10 years ago, and we were selling airtime. And from selling airtime, an opportunity came up to sell electricity, to vend electricity for Zesco. And then after that, bill payments came in, an opportunity to pay bills using our platform. People take cash, and your bill is paid, DSTV, Topstar, GoTV, and all those avenues. And then after that came in the monster, mobile money. I call it the monster because it's look, for me, I find Zambia is very unique as compared to other countries like Kenya, where you get M-Pesa and all that. In our case, we've got a situation where we have over 17 million cell phone users. What that means, in essence, is that each and every one of those 17 million accounts, not users, accounts, is a potential mobile money user. That's what it means. Tell me a bank that has 17 million clients. Nobody has it. And I find that to be very different from other places where they create a wallet and then people start subscribing to that wallet and they get onto that wallet. So mobile money, as Jimmy would agree, by the way, Jimmy is a childhood friend of mine and we come from far with it. So as mobile money will show you that the growth has been quite exponential. If you look at 2021 and you look at the figures, the values, you see that we are doing about 16.5 billion in terms of values. In December 2021, we are doing about 29 in 2022. That's huge, that's massive. And all of us here are either sending or receiving money using that platform. We, in most cases, will receive money in the bank account and then we'll move it to a mobile money wallet to make other transactions. So herein lies another opportunity. We've already got a wallet. We need to play into that wallet. And so as Kazan, when that opportunity of mobile money came in, we did a direct integration to MTN. And it went so well. And fortunately, the NFS came in, and that's how we got the other MNOs on board. But like Dr. Lwanga has said, the issue of profitability comes into play. And sometimes you want to look at how much you're making. If that is what we were looking at that point, we wouldn't have been where we are today because we were not even breaking even. So there were certain factors that made it a bit difficult in terms of being able to get our returns on investment, but we had to see ahead of us and prove to be durable up to that point. Of course, we are regulated by the Bank of Zambia, and I must make mention here that when we started, we were 100% airtime and Zesco sales. Currently, we are doing roughly about 67% of our transactions. They're NFS based, cash in and cash out, move to bank and all those other features. So many opportunities. Sorry, I would like to delve more on the opportunities because I think that's where we're losing a lot of, we're not seeing the chances and opportunities that lie there. So I'll give you an example, okay, of a company like Capital Fisheries. So Capital Fisheries wakes up in the morning, they've got a cashier who sells fish, he gets cash, he knocks off at 14 hours so that he goes to the bank and deposits the cash that he has made. So the challenge there is that he's losing time from 14 hours to 17 hours. He's not selling. 2, there's pilferage. And then because of that, the company is not making as much money as they should have been making. So an opportunity comes into play now where you can convert that cash into e-value. And without that cashier sitting in that, without him moving to the bank, he can actually move the money to the bank without moving out of his shop. Those are some of the opportunities that I've come across. When we saw mobile money, we saw in the banking side, we saw an opportunity to cash in, we saw an opportunity to cash out, but then we saw opportunities in bank transfers, move to bank. And then there are more opportunities for startups. For instance, I don't know if anybody is offering an opportunity for savings or interest-based type of wallet or anything of that sort. All those are opportunities that we can look forward to.
Thank you. Thank you for some of those use cases. I'll now pass it on to Mr. Shanangeta for more of a banking perspective on what exactly you're doing to drive innovation when it comes to open banking. Are you opening up your APIs? I know you run a few fintech challenges here and there.
Yeah, thank you, Sanga. Just to build on, I think what Bradley has said, interoperability also brings to account partnerships, in short. So as partners, we take our strengths and obviously our liabilities to the partnership. So as a bank, integrated through the electronic clearing house, we have been working with a number of fintechs. For example, we bring the strength of ATM network. So there are some fintechs who can send the voucher and withdraw cash through the ATM. It's much cheaper than going and withdraw from the booth. So we've been going ahead. In fact, our use cases are quite advanced. So instead of the agents, okay, for some of the major fintechs who sell e-value, okay, in exchange for cash. So they come to the bank to deposit cash, and sometimes the cash is quite powerful, and they create queues. We're integrated to the various MNOs. So when they come in the branch and deposit the cash, they are not interested in opening an account, of course. All they need, we should credit their e-value account so that they can go back on the street and start trading again. So this is creating a lot of congestion in the branch network. So what we're also doing is to open up our cash deposit machines, okay, so that the deposit is made, for example, through the ATM, and we've got the CDMs, the cash deposit machines. So directly to the wallet, not to the bank account. Like I said, most of the e-money operators are not interested in opening a bank account. So that is the sharing resources that I talked about and the customers. As traditional banks, we have a weakness of being nimble, and we need physical presence like in the past. We have to be everywhere, Pattern, Mongo, for us to provide service. But that is no longer the case because we are riding on fintechs. Again, Kazan, Bradley just sitting next to me. Wherever there is a Kazan presence, our customers can deposit directly to their bank account, into the Stanbic account, using a Kazan outlet. Same applies to Consequence 543, same applies to Airtel, to MTN. Maybe in order just to add to the current payment services, I think this is really where, for me, the fintechs also have an opportunity for us to grow. We have the capacity in terms of financial muscle. A number of fintechs might not have that. but they have the data. Right now, we are beginning to see even those that say MMOs operating, phone services are able to give you credit to your phone based on the activity that they see on your account. So that is already credit scoring. So there is crowd lending that is beginning to happen slowly in those small, if you like, minimum amounts. So the quantums can be more, because as you become more comfortable with the character, then we can partner with such fintechs, and we're already trying to work in the background. I've got my head of digital innovation here in this forum. If there are any fintechs, perhaps we could even talk to her about that going forward. So what we're also looking at is if they can, fintechs bring that data to us and prove that, look, these are credit-worthy clients, we could then partner by providing the pool of funding, and then they can run with the credit scoring and collections from the platforms, etc., etc. So those are just some of the initiatives. I can go on, but let me just go there.
Thank you. That's very interesting. As you've mentioned, as a bank, you're able to then, using open banking, extend those APIs, and using initiatives where you provide the consent from the customer, the fintech provides the customer data, and you're then able to extend different use cases, lending, insurance, and so on and so forth. So I'll move on to Dr. Luango. Just from NFS perspective, I know a lot already has been done when it comes to bridging the gap and providing a huge enabler for open banking. Do you foresee any standards? I note there's the payment services derivative in Europe. There's open banking in the UK, and United Payments Interface in India. Do you see a time when we have a sort of a standard which would enable all those coming in to integrate on the national financial switch to easily transact and have a more favorable?
Thank you very much. It's something we're looking at as clearinghouse. I think now we'll rebrand to NFS because that's a catchword. If I say NFS, then they'll say, "Oh, okay."
Yes.
Yeah, but if I say I'm from Zambia Electronic Clearinghouse and so on. Yeah. The challenge with open banking is the security of the shared information. So if as a fintech, you provide the heavy lifting for the bank to provide the facility, what guarantee are you giving that the third-party information being shared is secure? Okay. Our colleagues in the UK, in India, and so on, you can see the strength of the fintechs in terms of information management. They will tell you we are ISO 2700165 or 22301 and so on. It guarantees that their system is foolproof and so on. So here, when we say, okay, we introduce open banking, okay, which we have at a smaller scale, because where we are in here, I don't know how many we are, 20 something, 30. All the 7 wallets and the 17 banks are represented here. So we can move money from any of the 7 wallets or the banks that exist outside this room and move money around and so on. You can't believe it? I give you my wallet to transfer back. Yeah, so if we work around the issues of security of data, then we'll be getting somewhere. Because if you look at the cyber crime issues that we have currently, okay, there's collusion. Somebody knows this bank, the witnesses goes outside, partners with fintech and defraud the bank and so on, and that kind of thing. There's also phishing. And Zambians, we are prone to phishing. One time a security firm came from Zambia and they just demonstrated the workshop at Inters where there were 120 participants. So some guy just sent an electronic form to say, if you need you want a cap and a t-shirt, fill in the form. Name, your NRC, your bank, and whatever. 95% give that information. For what? T-shirt? You can't do that. Even here, somebody tries to send the form in here to say you need a pen or whatever, or a voucher for dinner for two or whatever. We all fill out. Okay? So we still need more training, more awareness in terms of the issues that we have, and so on. Then, of course, the institutions that are specifically targeted to come up with the information the people targeting that institution want specifically, and use that information to do their own things and so on. So cybercrime is one of the things that startup fintechs can look at, is how do you create the confidence if you're partnering with a more organized and more financed and better regulated institution if you have to do business with them, because there's a need of trust before anything else. Can they trust you? And trust is not about, look, I'm a Christian, I stay in anything. You need to provide some evidence. You need to provide some standard, okay? For example, NFS, if we're not certified for PCI DSS, because we're dealing with card data, so automatically that's a failure on our part. Visa won't even come to our door and knock, because Visa, they don't like us because of what we have done. We have moved them away from the market, 90%, okay? They'll go to the banks to say, look, these guys are a threat. So any transaction going through these guys can go anywhere because they're not certified. So for us, PCI DSS is a requirement to do card business. And we're using the ISO standard for the card to do interoperability. It's an old technology, but it's safe and secure.
Yes, that's ISO. I take note of there's a new change in SWIFT. I think it's ISO 222. Yes, okay. Moving on to regulatory perspective. Yes, actually the question is coming to you. Yes.
Just to add to Dr. Longa's submissions. So I think the main challenge for the fintech startup is, as you, especially when you're speaking to open banking, because open banking now you want to have access to, whether it's banks, whether it's the MNOs, you want them to share your APIs. But then the challenge that has been put forth by Dr. Longa is, how do you show that what they're exposing themselves to is secure? So you need to look at issues, standardization. What are the current trends? What are the current standards that will demonstrate that your system is secure? So it's referred to ISO 27001. That will demonstrate to someone, yes, I can trust you. If I'm on the road and I meet a policeman, what's the evidence that I'm able to drive? I'll show my driver's license. So in the same manner as you're developing your systems, you look at what are the current trends in terms of information security, in terms of consumer protection, how are you going to secure customers' data? So when you demonstrate that you have an understanding of these things, and sometimes it doesn't have to be that you have to invest. There are also shared resources, whether it's cloud computing or whether you are software as a service. There are people that already offer those solutions, and you can ride on their experiences and certifications.
Yes. Okay, yes. So again, the question is coming back to you. And just to build on what you've already spoken about, do you get fintechs coming for licensing to do with banking as a service providers? We spoke earlier on shared platforms. So for example, eKYC, what can be done where we have a centralized database and it's the same data that Stanbic ABSA would hold of the customer to obviously meet the requirements. So how can we have a standardized eKYC, which would then improve use cases around customer onboarding and so on?
The topic of eKYC is something that's been there for quite some time. It's something that the government is currently piloting, and I know there's some banks as well as MNOs that are taking part. So really, it's a thing of, if I'm with bank A, I can given all my KYC to this bank, and now when I need to change to another bank, I need to reintroduce this. So it's a cost for both people, the customer. It's also a cost to the financial institution as a sector, because now you're doing the same thing that's already been done previously. So how do we bring this centralized KYC, and if there's a national ID or a digital ID that we can tap into to verify your identity? So I think that's something that's already underway, and with the support of the digital ID being spearheaded by the Ministry of Home Affairs, I think that's something that we hopefully can see materialize. And that will help save cost for both the financial institutions as well as the customer, because now once you have a shared resource, everybody can tap into that.
Yes, yes. I see as a situation where you have fintechs coming up with solutions on how to quickly onboard, and then all the bank needs to do is open up secure APIs and allow for a faster growth or customer growth. I think Mr. Bradley, I'll move on to the next question. With the advances in technology and customers moving towards personalized financial services, we have seen a shift in financial products being designed with insight of the needs of the customers. Goals. How do you see open banking allowing financial institutions to provide more tailored solutions? So we've read of the cases in the region on embedded financing, where you're providing a certain banking product specific to other fintechs.
Okay. So one thing that emerged along the way was if you go to any shopping mall, where there's a ShopRite, where there's a Choppies, where there's a Pick and Pay, you see for a lot of people that drive along Mosotunya and one, what's this mall, Pinnacle, you literally see those guys chase your cars trying to get you mobile money, cash in or cash out. So have you ever asked yourself a question why you have those people standing there? It's because in most cases, somebody wants to cash out, get cash, and walk into ShopRite and pay for something. So because of that, an opportunity has emerged, a merchant payment opportunity, the ability to pay with mobile money to buy your groceries in Pick and Pay, in ShopRite, and all that. So I think we, on our end as Kazan, have tried to onboard as many clients as possible. I can probably say we've got about 4 councils collecting levies using mobile money. We've got most of the retail outlets that are actually accepting mobile money payments without asking you to leave a withdraw charge. You just pay exactly what you're paying. However, the challenges that we've had is issues that Jimmy and ourselves have always had, we knock our heads over, is issues of regulation. So sometimes within the sector, as fintechs and other players, we come up with different ways of trying to make a profit out of the process. And in certain instances, we actually make the product even a bit more expensive than it should be. However, if there was proper regulation, ideally we should have a situation where if something is advertised as 100 kwacha, you should pay 100 kwacha for it. The same way when you swipe for a product or a service, you don't get charged withdraw charge. And the reason is simple, is to a large extent, that money that is deposited into the digital space, not all of it comes up. There's no guarantee when that guy says, pay me a withdrawal charge. There's no guarantee that he will withdraw that money. In most cases, they actually send the money elsewhere. They make a profit out of that money. So we need, from the banking side, I think we need more better regulation, which I believe the Bank of Zambia is currently sitting on it. Jimmy will add on to that, but I think those are areas. And I feel that if we manage that well, we'll be able to allow the bank as well to allow that process where somebody can actually pay the same way you pay with mobile money, to pay in ShopRite or Pick and Pay or Choppies with your wallet, because you have it on your phone, so you should be able to do that. So I think those are areas that I feel we should go into and take advantage of the interoperability that we have.
Okay, thank you. Yes, please.
All right. So Bradley has touched on the issue of regulation. So that's something that we did for the commercial bank sector. In 2020, we issued directives that put limits on certain charges like inter-account transfer on post transactions. So if you as a customer, you walk into game stores and you are swiping using your card, you will not face any charge for that transaction. And that same exercise is being done for the mobile money sector. And at this stage, it's only approval processes, and the same rules should be able to apply and avoid some of these issues like surcharges that Bradley has spoken to. But what we really try to preach to the fintechs, as well as the incumbents that are already established in the market, we do not have to have regulation for each and every issue. Sometimes when you are engaged and you are seeing that here you are applying too much, you are being too commercial and you are not being futuristic in how you're looking at things. Because once a regulation comes into play, now it's law and you have to follow it. And to undo that may take quite a bit of time. So the challenge to the fintechs as well as to the incumbents is, when you're looking at the service, if we look at mobile money, let's pick the example of merchants. If I sell at a corner shop and you're telling me to pay a merchant discount rate of 2%, my margins may be 5%. I will not be willing to accept mobile money in that instance. Why not charge 0.5% and why not charge 1% and make from bigger volumes? And people migrate slowly. Look at how people have migrated to mobile money. Slowly, we're speaking to 11.2 million active users of mobile money. What will stop the merchants from coming forth if they see the business case for that? And then look at your supply chain. We're speaking of using much adoption of mobile money. How do we get the entire supply chain into adopting mobile money services so that the need for cash out is no longer relevant? So those are the issues that I think you as prospective fintechs as well as incumbents really need to look at, so that the entire supply chain, there's now no need for cash at any stage. And the merchant also is able to make a reasonable profit. Let's not look at making a killing now, but something that is sustainable, where it's a win-win. I think something, if you're looking at winning just now, the other players will die and you remain alone and there's no one to deal with. So let's create sustainable long-term relationships that will see us grow in the future. I thought I'd just add to that.
Thank you. So I hope the fintechs in the room are taking note. The saying goes, innovation first and then regulation follows. So I'll move on to Mr. Shenengeta. What role do you see data sharing playing in enabling interoperability and open banking in Zambia? And how can data privacy and security concerns be addressed? So just to add on, we're seeing a move of banks having an all-fits-all solution, but a sort of unbundling of your product range to more modular banking. So you can have a savings API, a lendings API.
Thank you, Sandra. I think in a way we have touched on that in the previous discussion, but I'll just expand on it. So in the partnership, again, it's always important to see the person in that light. You also share the data is obviously the KYC source. And KYC source is about identification. So by sharing APIs, obviously that have got details about our mutual customers. What we open up ourselves to there is how secure are we in that partnership? So currently, just to give you an example, traditional banking is quite strong when it comes to KYC and ensuring that they identify their customers properly. This has not been the case to some extent with the fintechs because of the agency model. So they allow customers to be onboarded using a network of their agents. And sometimes what you find is that because it's about scale, the diligence around customer identification could fall flat on its belly. The reason why I'm saying this is that whilst the sharing has enabled interoperability, like you indicated, but we've seen emergence of significant risk, and I think this we need to work together to ensure that we address. So part of addressing, how do you look after that data is for the first-time customers, especially being onboarded through agents. I think they have to be lower limits to observe such clients and ensure at the time that they can provide more information to upgrade them, to another limit. But sometimes what happens is that documentation, the limit is already very high. And like I said, because we are all integrated, the fraud attempt which starts from fintech end up impacting us in the bank. So how do we work together on that? I've just talked about limits, and I think what has also been talked about here, although it is quite in future, I think Jimmy has touched on it, the electronic registration, which was going to include biometrics, so that there's no doubt about who I'm dealing with, because then you are using biodata to identify the particular individual, for you to engage in business with them. So I see that as a need. Of course, data encryption is also another thing. We have seen within, and that's process now, we've seen within the delivery chain a transmission of clear data or clear text. In other words, I'm sending the voucher for you to go and withdraw from the ATM or from an agent. Before I get there, somebody else has already harvested the withdraw because they've been able to intercept the clear data. So there are some encryption issues that we need to work together on in terms of the delivery chain from a process perspective. Of course, people education is also another area. Regulations, I think Jimmy has talked about that. Ensuring that when we meet a party, the ability to safeguard data. You talked about terms and conditions at the beginning, the consent of the customers, etc., etc. So when we do that, I think we will see a better partnership from an interoperability perspective with the fintechs.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to mention those that are watching online and those in the audience, the hashtags we're using are hashtag open banking, hashtag fintech, hashtag interoperability. So I'll move on to a section that has open questions. So any of the speakers would like to tackle it. What are the technology advancements or trends that you see shaping the future of interoperability in fintech and financial services, and how can Zambian startups take advantage of it? I know we've spoken a bit into that.
So can start.
Yes, please.
Quickly, I think startups can take advantage of the already existing infrastructure, especially, for example, the national financial suite. Like I said at the beginning, as long as there's a financial need to be met, you need banking services. So the other part missing on this panel is the ISPs, the internet service providers. Because for as long as we can get a place connected, then it becomes easy for fintechs to move in there and provide their services. We're hoping that the technology like Starlink is really going to come to Zambia as well, because then it's going to increase broadband provisions to areas that we cannot reach today. But taking advantage of the existing infrastructure will reduce the cost of entry for the fintechs. But lastly, it is always a need that is going to create a fintech. So there are a lot of needs that are not met. And what the fintechs from the payment perspective do is that they just facilitate payment based on the particular transaction that informs the need. The need has to come first. I think in rural areas, there are a lot of needs. In the unbanked areas, there are a lot of needs. They need money. Financial inclusion being a big factor because we all need money, even children. So you can still innovate around just coming up an app that talks to how children can be included in financial matters and so on. So all those opportunities for fintechs. The problem now is sometimes wanting to dab and incorporate is already existing. Let's go and find a lot of needs that are unique, and then we can, on the back of that, embed financial services.
Thank you. Yes, please go ahead.
Yeah, just to quickly add on what Mr. Chimigeta had said. So a lot of things that we've morphed into as Kazan are not things we actually planned to be into. It's the opportunities that avail themselves. So we positioned ourselves as a fintech, and we found ourselves, like he rightfully mentioned, to be aggregators. So somebody will come with a service. I'm providing this service. I want to be able to receive my money and pay this money. Can I go through your system to be able to do that? I remember placing an ad a few weeks ago and thinking I'll get more people to get Kazan machines, but people prompting for other business. I sell tomato to people who don't want to leave their homes, and I want them to pay me. I created the platform, and they don't want to move. I need to provide that tomato from Soweto, and I mark up and I make my money. So there are a lot of opportunities. There's bulk payments, there's merchant payments, a lot of things that we found ourselves doing are things that we have to alter along the way because it's a need that we've identified as we go. So I think the first thing that you need to do is put yourself in that innovative position and take advantage of this interoperability because the sky is really the limit to this. Yeah.
Thank you. Any other takers before I move on to?
Yeah, for opportunities.
Yes, for the fintechs.
Okay. Sometimes we look too far for solutions. 4 months ago, we were in Mumbai because we're told there's this great solution which can work for Zambia. We went there and we were like, yeah, it can work for Zambia. Then we did ask, how much are you charging? How many subscribers do you have? They said they millions. They over 200 million subscribers for the product and service. So 200 million, what's the population of Zambia? Of that population, what's the population of that bank or people that need the service? Of course, we can't get to those levels, okay? But it's something that can work. Zambia needs local solutions. It's good to import solutions, fine and so on, but Zambia needs local solutions. I haven't heard of a fintech saying I provided a solution for a microfin. I know probably they are there. I've just haven't heard. Kazan, are you dealing with microfins?
We got it.
They disperse the loans through Kazan and whatever,
exactly.
And so on.
Get the payment.
Yeah, who else is in that space? That space can be exploited. It's a local solution that we need, okay? If you go to these nightclubs or bars and pubs, those that are using the franchise, they're using the system called Pilot to check how much the one is drinking, whatever. You know that system is very easy to develop. Most lodges and local bars, they don't have that system. It's trust in the human being who's collecting the money and whether, that kind of thing. You can go with your whiskey bottle in the pocket. When the boss is not there, you sell yours, you get the money, then you start selling them. If somebody local can develop a small system which you can use on the tablet or the phone, it will help those guys. the pilot system, I don't know if it's from South Africa or wherever it comes from, it's a good system, but the features it has, we don't need most of that, okay? Hotel management software, you go to the lodges, what's in a system in a lodge? That you key in, whatever, at the end of the day, they print your receipt and gives you a good message and so on. 2 months later, it's your birthday, you receive like a SMS and so on. No, it's just a receipt sign and so on, off you go. Sometimes you're in a hurry, you don't sign. Does the owner of the lodge get to see that money? Some automation will make these guys a bit more than what they're making now. We have had issues in the press about village banking. I was hoping somebody in Zambia would develop, even using Access or Excel, to develop something where group, where you allow 2 people to log in to just administer that group of village banking, who gets what and so on. And that system can actually calculate who's owing what interest, who deserves it. Just Excel. You don't have to go anywhere. Why should somebody steal 2 million kwacha for their friends? I say, no, we don't know it was happening in the background. No, if you have that kind of system, simple, where they are meeting, everybody knows what the issue is. Reports are generated and printed. It can help these guys, okay? Did you guys know that page cash management, I don't know about Bongo, but even my institution is a tricky one, page cash management. So with all these wallets that we have, with all this open banking we have now, don't you think it would be worthwhile to develop an app for clearinghouse? You talk to our bank, you plug it in there through some interface, and we just use mobile and so on. If I want to know how much any particular hour, it will give me the report. Who's spending it and retired paid cash, who's doing what and so on. Don't you think it's something the institution would adopt? I was just thinking. Okay. Yeah, so if you move around and you just see around, we talked about schools, okay? Some schools, they fire their cashier every quarter. We're not talking about the road spike, the lake road, and so there's so many schools around, okay? Some of those schools, they have buses, okay? And drivers and so on. Do those schools know the contribution of the bus and the driver to the school revenue? They don't, because as long as kids are taken and brought back, okay, if the school has a small enterprise system where it takes how much fuel the driver is using, how many hours taking on the road and so on, at the end of the day, the report will come, they will know which parents are not paying, how much the driver is contributing, how much the teacher is contributing, and so on. There's so many schools, even government schools. So solutions are there, okay? I don't want to talk about net cash in government because then they will refuse. But again, they need a solution. Yes. Okay, they need a solution. I remember some years back we had a trade fair in Ndola. We went and one government stand wasn't done until 2 days before. And I was with one of the judges and so on. Then I was asking, so you guys, what's going on? The guy who had petty cash is sick, that will send somebody to watch. So we came to Lusaka. This guy was sick like this. Then he just said there's a briefcase under the bed. So they took out the briefcase. It was 500,000, which is 500 million that time. 500,000 under the bed, supposed to beautify your standard. Okay. If it was digital money, which the central bank is promoting, there's no need to go and see the guy who just said, look, wire this money and so on. So it's not only those guys, it's happening everywhere. So the people will start providing solutions that are moving us away from management to digital money, then we won't be in good business.
Yes. Another opportunity I see in the region is buy now, pay later, which I'm not seeing many fintechs within Zambia taking advantage of. So it can be a number of different use cases where you tap into the market that can't afford to pay there and then, but would be jump at the opportunity to pay 2 months, 3 months. This could be small amounts, large amounts. So I'll touch on the last open-ended question before we move on to the segment of the Q&A with the audience. Again, it's an open to all the speakers. How do you see, what are the challenges a fintech would have to overcome when integrating with a bank or any financial institution? Yes.
Banks are regulated differently. There are certain requirements they have to meet on a daily basis. The float is one of them, and all the other things. Okay. When something happens in the market, they have courts, and they have monthly meetings. If the bank, if business is behaving, they're told off and that kind of thing. On the other side, it's more like a free arrangement and so on. So you're regulated differently. I don't know how much the payments associations are to ensure that all fintechs are part of the payment association, and that you get to be registered with the central bank. And when it comes to doing business with the bank, there'll be that comfort to say they're registered and have met the requirements and so on. So that disparity in regulation makes it semi-difficult for the same level, okay? Which is okay. It doesn't matter, okay? I mean, a bus, in a city, going to go, we'll get there, okay? So banks by nature, from the 14 years, 20, they don't want to do the heavy lifting because they're busy and meeting. So if you can offer a solution that's that heavy lifting, whatever product or service and so on, that would be a starting point. There should be that attraction, okay? Whatever you're offering is attractive. If it's not, they'll tell you come tomorrow, and so on. If it's attractive, the second thing is, can you be trusted? Okay, is this someone who's going to make money and run away and so on? Then the third thing is it sustainable and all the other requirements and so on. I think I'll end here.
Okay, just to add, I think as you're approaching a bank, really, because for payment service providers, you are regulated under the National Payment Systems Act. So you will essentially need to get a license, and then the bank is comforted that you're regulated and licensed by the bank. But as you start holding those commercial discussions, remember the key issue is collaboration. What value add are you bringing to the bank? The bank may not have the time to go into each and every combo to regulate. Look at mobile money. Where would all the people that are on mobile money be if mobile money providers? And the banks have realized that potential that the mobile money market has, and all that money is now brought together and held within the banking system. So through collaboration, everybody is winning. And the trick for a fintech or any incumbent who is providing payment services then is to safeguard the bank, because as they are opening up the banking system, the financial system as a whole is only as strong as the weakest link. So now that's where we're speaking to issues of standardization. What security do you have on your system so that they can trust you that you will not expose their system to any fraud? Because a fraud will enter through the weakest link. They'll see that, okay, that system there seems. The target could be a very big bank, but the fraud can start. So the trick would be to secure your systems and ensure that you meet the minimum security standards that are accepted internationally.
Okay, we'll get one last response and then we'll open it up to questions from the audience.
Yeah, I think most of the issues have been covered in terms of vetting the fintech for how formidable they are in terms of cybersecurity. You know, how they proved their systems against weaknesses before we could even admit them. Among other things, of course, we ask them to sign what we call a non-disclosure agreement with us, so that the issues of confidentiality are also taken into account. But depending on what the fintech is providing, whether it is just scoring data or scoring engine, the measures will be different. But let me just pick on the common one and the most used one. If a fintech is a financial provider, it's got e-wallet services, we also have to ensure that before we can integrate with them, they've got enough capital, to place in terms of settlement risk. There is settlement risk on the back end. So as much as the transactions are happening with fintechs, their settlement accounts are still sitting with banks. That's why there is this symbiotic relationship. So it's mutual and specific advantage that we benefit from these partnerships. But settlement risk is one such area that sometimes we don't even think about. So that's just an addition to what has already been said. Okay.
Thank you very much. Now open up questions to the audience. Are there any questions for any of the speakers? By show of hands.
Hi everyone, I'm Francis. I'm managing the Bongo Hive Consult side within the unit here. I guess my question would be more to, the Kazang, the aggregator players in this space. I think something we see a lot, at least as Bongo Hive, is you have a lot of potential entrepreneurs trying to start businesses. And as you've rightly mentioned, payments is the best way to validate whether you actually have a business, being able to accept that payment. But we also realize that whenever we, try to point the entrepreneur to do that onboard, at least getting that integration done, that's almost always the biggest challenge. That's almost the biggest barrier. Just trying to find out if you have plans to at least make those early testers in that business sort of integrate through you as the trusted link to the banking services. Just do you have any plans in helping facilitate, because I don't know if my business is valuable yet. Like I might not even have the customers yet, which I feel a lot of the institutions want to see ahead of time to sort of prove that, this is, but it's a new business. It might be a new idea in a new space. So you still have to amass that traction. But I think we also need a way for those early businesses to start accepting payments early without the bureaucracies that come later. And once maybe that's valid, you sort of move them to make those personal integrations. Just wondering if that's something in your plans or what that looks like.
Okay, thanks. Thanks a lot, Francis. I was holding myself here when we were talking about the challenges in entering the market as a fintech. Everybody avoided one very expensive. It's expensive. And we have reached that level Francis actually described there because we've had our fingers bent quite a few times. It costs us a bit of money to get to integrate with certain, depending on your API and all that. Sometimes it costs us money, and then we have to put that bill. So there are times where we said, look, we're going to pay this amount because we feel this business is viable, and then the returns are not what. So we've been bet quite a number of times. And to be honest with you, we've done it quite a number of times, and we still do it. We look at a certain business, so look, we might get our returns on this one. And Kazang is in the business of transactions. So an aggregation means more transactions. So any viable idea is something we can sit down with and agree We've restructured even the process of interest. We can sit down and agree and say, look, how do we structure this? How do we pay for the initial development costs? But we've got quite a number of small businesses that have come to us and are currently on the Kazan platform. The beauty about it, some of them you never even know it's Kazan, but you go there and pay them. And so we've done that and we're available for that.
What I've also noticed within some of the banks is that they also open up their APIs, so allow a number of these fintechs to come in, of course, test platforms, the test data, and then they're able to try some of those transactions so that they make through the go-to-market and so then that way they're able to the bank, and that also opens up opportunities to fintech. Any more questions?
Yes, I do have a question. Sorry, let me just ask before I give it to you. On the banking side, if you look at, I think those a good set of products or opportunities, problems worth solving that were listed. And whilst we know of startups that are addressing some of them, I find an interesting area now that we've dealt with, I think we've dealt with in Zambia, we started to deal with the basic infrastructure, payments, making sure money can move around. But now it's what services we can then, what value addition we can then provide for customers in that case. So in theory, I think that village banking shouldn't exist. And why I say so is village banking is customers or us, the population, trying to solve a problem that the banks have failed to solve for us. So the two problems I can immediately say there are, if I deposit money in the bank in a savings account, I won't get interest. So I'd rather put it together with friends. And then as we put money together, we then get some theory of an interest, depending on the calculations that you use there. The second side is, again, because I can't, as a person, get a loan from my bank, we're now grouping together as citizens and then lending each other money, which because the bank is not lending us the money. So that's why I'm saying that it's citizens solving a problem which the institution has failed to. But I think there's an opportunity there, again, given all the things that are happening for fintechs to step in and solve for wealth creation. So whether you can get money on your savings and also lending on the other side based on hopefully better interest rates. So now, because to do this well, you need to be able to scale out and hopefully integrate with the banks to be able to do that. Would the banks consider this competition because now you're collecting savings, or would they be open to considering something like that, an integration? Because I'm trying to think of, now that we've solved payments, how do we now start to solve all the other things that people want to see out of financial institutions? Yeah.
So this mentioned the banks. Yeah, but I think there are two things in my view, maybe even more. But the first one is that village banking, as an example, is something that obviously is solving some financial need, but for interest to be paid, it will always depend on how much is the cost of your deposit. So within that network of village banking, either, I hope this is the case, the members have become so comfortable with each other that they are able to pay interest which the bank cannot pay if they were to deposit their money in the bank account. So remember, banking is also about attracting deposits at a certain rate, and of course, lending it further to the deficit unit as loans and advances at another rate. So for as long as the rates are manageable, the spectrum of Bank of Zambia and the pricing related to, depending whether it's a 90-day TBU, then that definitely is the target for bank. But there's a risk also. I heard here Dr. Rami talking about some people taking off as members with money. I've heard it several times. The money that has been deposited by their members. part of that challenge actually is because the rates are not sustainable, they are not realistic. Because for you to pay a return, your business that you are investing in must give you a certain return that then can make you sustain your needs to pay for your deposit. But the opportunity with this second point is this is where I'm also challenging everyone, including the fintechs. So to address that need, we need to come up with a product. Yeah, so we have joint accounts already in banks, but maybe they're not, sufficient to address the village banking proposition. But there are already a number of products being structured to meet the needs of that particular market segment. It's new also, which is good. Yeah, so it's an opportunity as well. So I don't think banks have sort of completely failed in brackets, because even that money is being kept in the bank accounts in most instances. And it's just that I think the way the account is operated then also brings to bear a few other things. Because if I'm an individual, I'm expected to have a certain turnover that you can hold me accountable to. But if the activity on this bank account and also represent another money laundering and other risks like financial terrorism financing and all, because these are very busy accounts operated by individuals who are sort of representatives of this joint account. So I'm sure Jimmy will want to say something about that. So there is an opportunity, but there are also challenges that we need to overcome. Yeah. So the problem is for all of us. Thank you.
Maybe just to add on the village banking scenario. So village banking is something that from a regulatory perspective that we've seen that we didn't immediately move into regulate, because we want to see, you don't want to kill it. There's a service, there's a need that is satisfied. But the issue for the customer is to understand what they're getting themselves into, to understand the risk and know how you can manage those risks. So there are already products on the market provided by some commercial banks as well as other payment service providers, where they can open account whatever is happening on that system. So I think the main issue to deal with is what are the risks that people are seeing in this village banking, and what solutions are there to address those type of risks. Already in our regulatory sandbox, we do have a solution that is speaking to village banking and how people can fight and make sure that there's no such risk as somebody running around with that cash. But I think people should be aware that village banking is based on social validation. I know you and you trust me and we come together, I can trust you. I don't want to disappoint you, so I make sure that I make my contribution. But how do we harness that and then bring it to the financial system and ensure that money works in an economic and viable way?
To ask whether the Bank of Zambia has a deliberate policy to do like what the EU did to force every other bank in the EU to open up their APIs. I heard from the gentleman from Zambia Clearinghouse saying you need to be ISO certified and all those requirements, and those don't come cheap, which I think excludes most of the bank sites because Plaid started by scraping bank website. That's how we started offering that bank open banking in the States. So is web scraping illegal in Zambia? Or because I think most of the banks in Zambia have got websites and people can log in, and I think the solution is to offer delegated authority like the way Plaid does it. You log in into the Plaid apps website, it takes you to the bank site, you enter credentials, they certify you are the same person. Because even if I go to FNB website, I enter my credentials, and someone can actually scrape those details and enter into the bank sites. And I think that's the question I have. Maybe
I can handle the open banking issue of the question, and I think you referred to the we do not have a specific regulation that says that deals as extensive as the general data protection regulation, but the same principles do apply here. If you look at the Competition Commission, if you present a case where you have two businesses and there's unfair agreements with someone, something of a competitive advantage taking on, abusing their position, a dominant player abusing their position, those are things that would fall short of what those regulations require. If you speak to the National Financial Switch, I know Bradley did speak to the challenges that they had in terms of bringing on board a number of parts. But now you've got the National Financial Switch. So as a fintech, once you are licensed by the bank, and you now go to the National Financial Switch and download it, now you have access to all the various commercial partners and payment providers through which you can provide your services, whether it means requesting for somebody that has a store value processing transaction. Now you have that access. So I think in terms of open banking, we have made some efforts, and those roadblocks that used to be there in terms of that bank entering into the financial services, they no longer apply. We still have a way to go, but I think we've made efforts, because just look at it 10, 20 years ago. It was predominantly the commercial banks. Now you've got a number of non-banks, you're doing MNOs providing financial services. So the national switch would be one quick way that you will get all these financial players and allow access to them. So and those open banking relationships, whether bilaterally, and the much simpler and easier way that gives you the access to the national financial switch.
Just a quick comment. Yeah, maybe just a quick comment on routing through website to access your bank account. If I heard you correctly, I think pseudoism is one of the major problems we have. Identity theft, and this is where the people element come in. How prone are people to phishing or smishing, etc. But I think the only way out for now is multi-factor authentication, so that you're able to authenticate from more than just password being entered, into the site, but also the OTP coming through to your mobile phone. Otherwise, it's a huge problem. I think if I heard you correctly about website and scraping them off, the use thereof, etc. That's what I'll just contribute, and that's why I think hopefully biometrics is really going to be like foolproof. Although I've heard a few people who said no, I had my face on my mobile phone, for authentication, but my daughter is like me, and so I don't know whether biometrics is going to take us, completely out of the woods, and not yet to be seen.
Yeah, I
think open API is the way to go if we have to develop as a nation. And that will give leverage to young techs and the fintechs to be more ambitious and so on. That the question is, as we as NFS or the banks that represent another players ready for open APIs? Not for now, but for our sake as NFS, these are discussions that we have started having because currently everyone who connects to the NFS has to come to ISO 20000. Now, like I said, this is an old technology, 90s, and we're moving to 222. Again, the only difference is that 222 enable you put more data on the files and so on. It's more flexible, and basically, especially for those that are doing inter-country transaction, because it helps you with sanction screening and so on. So open APIs is a way to go. So it's something we certainly discussing, and we hope we can share that discussion with all the players that integrate with us and so on. But like I mentioned, the security of having open APIs. Are you guys who want to come through? Are you secure enough? Okay. Do you trust your people that things like logging and so on, the internal risks that associated with the people that you have and so on, how can they be avoided and so on? But again, it's about starting. Let's start fixing the problems that you're good. Because we know as the NFS, we won't grow from where we are if we're going in the ISO 85. Because we have noticed a number of institutions that are interface with us. Each time there's an upgrade, we receive the quarterly, the NFS down. Or we hear from their customers that we are told the NFS is down. The NFS is down by 17, 20 players, just you. So currently we are used with that discussion. When they call us, the NFS is down, we say, okay, fine, but can we help you sort out the problem? Because the moment you blame us, which means you take time to resolve the problem, but we are used. Just like when we finalize the interoperability, you could walk to a shop and they'll tell you, you can move money from Zambia to wherever, powered by company X. That was powered by us, but posting in Mahalo. So
just to add, just to add to this, to the open banking conversation. When you're speaking to open banking, really what we're saying is the consumer is the one of that data. They've built up that data. So should I be forced? Maybe let's use the example I used earlier with Sanga was if you access your services through one health provider, let's say you're with this hospital, you've been with them for 5 years, they know your history, health history, and they know your data. But for one reason or another, there's a better choice, there's a better hospital that's come on the market, and you wish to move to that hospital. How? Now, in some cases, if you are a typical patient like myself, when you start querying, now will they know this case or will they understand this issue? So you sort of hesitate because you don't have the data that the other hospital has. You may be forced to continue with this somehow substandard service because you fear they will not know you. But this is your data. You should not be forced to continue receiving this substandard service just because they don't have the data that is about you. So none of them backing the companies, we need to protect the consumer because that is their data for this entity to have access to it. So we apply the same things for financial services. If my money sits with bank A, but I have this app that's able to provide all these value adds that I want, then I should be able to access that money through this app and be able to do my transaction. So I think, and then that's now force everybody to sort of game up and compete based on quality of service rather than just because they have their account that has a dominant position. So those are really relevant conversations.
Actually, that solution is there. With our International Payments Corporation of India, somebody has, because they have open API. Somebody has developed an API where you link all your accounts and wallets. Okay. If I have to send money to you from where I have to be there, I have to go to you. So, but what that app does is to display all your accounts. And you get to choose I want from my Zanaco account, from my Stanbic account, and where you want that money to move. So you don't physically have to go, oh, is this working? Not the network is not. So that is, can it work for us? It's up to you guys.
And just another thing that needs to be considered is underserved and underbanked. When it comes to consent, are they able to understand what they're giving consent to with their customer data?
Yes. My name is Yaza. Is it on? Yeah, again. So my name is Yaza Kara. I'm from Stanbic Bank. And my question is to the central bank. So we're in this space right now where we want to, as much as possible, harness interoperability. As banks, we want to work with fintechs, because we cannot do everything. So obviously, we want to be able to work with the fintechs, but at the same time, we have to make sure that the money we are keeping for our customers is trusted and we're keeping it properly. So I think for us as banks, that's our major issue at the moment, is trusting who we can then work with. So can the central bank then come in, either through your regulatory sandbox or some sort of quick licensing mechanism for the fintechs, so that we can come up and say, okay, this fintech is 100% safe, tick, 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 tick. But at the same time, we ask the central bank not to stifle innovation. So not to be slow as you're licensing these fintechs. We want them quick. We want so many of them, we don't even know what to do with them. Yeah, so how can you help the fintechs be licensed, be safe for us to work with? At the same time, we are sure that we're working with the right entities. Yeah.
The answer is actually contained in the question. One of the things that we've come up with is the regulatory sandbox. And the essence of the regulatory sandbox is you may have a solution which you want to test in a live environment. So with actual people dealing with actual money. And that's one way that we are addressing that concept. So that once you're approved in the you can then test your product with live people, live money, and be able to partnership. And appeal to the fintechs and product. We've come up with regulatory sandbox. We've reduced the number of requirements, and sometimes we do relax some of those requirements depending on the case. But you find you speak to somebody that give us a certified copy of your ID. Because then we just kind of leave it open ended. We have to do some vetting and ensure that we're getting free. That we receive. Sometimes that's not enough information for us to be able to. So I think at the same time also we have this information on our website. Go through this, ensure you answer and give information that we need for us to be able to verify and review this application. So the framework is there for reduced and not the one license criteria, but also to give us that information. It's up to you to provide that information for us to be able to
Reduce the time.
On time, yes. I know we do not so 90 days we can reach to review this application. So yes. Also, what should it be next? Sometimes just take the time. The question is very clear to go through and submit the information. What delays is the back and forth we have to go through. You have said provide us with a certified ID. Somebody just submits an ID. Then you have to call them and review that. In cases people even go to WhatsApp, but when you just go to us, we have people that will actually take you this process, take you through what you need to do. You give, before you submit, you give them your draft, and they take you through this process and advise you what is missing and what you need to do. So I think also don't fear those words. We are there to actually save you. So whether it's virtual or whether it's physical, we will guide you through that process. It doesn't have to take the 90 days. It's the back and forth that the result was in that time.
All right. All right, thank you. I had a question. I wanted to find out what is Bank of Zambia stance on blockchain technology and cryptocurrency to solve some of the problems of conventional banking systems, such as fluctuating interest rates or very high ones, and also basically high interest rates, and also just the ability to stabilize currency, for instance. So like, would Bank of Zambia consider maybe a startup that is trying to pursue a path in crypto as competition, or is that something that they'd be happy to engage with?
On cryptocurrency, we did issue a statement where we say we've noted the number, the increasing interest. I think it's been there for members of the public, and in some cases, people are actually using it. That we sell these blockchains and you make so much money from it. Find what we mean. It's totally different. There was no crypto involved there. It was just being used to sort of defraud people. So one would see that, yes, we have seen some sort of characteristics of cryptocurrencies that sort of make it capacity to be used as a medium of exchange. But there are risks that people must be aware of. And people have been warned to deal very carefully when dealing in such. Right now, we do have a crypto-related product in our sandbox. So we haven't closed off and said it's something we don't regulate. It's something that we're watching and will continue to monitor. And by having it in the sandbox, it gives us an opportunity also to learn and see what it can offer. But crypto is not just for currency also. I think land registry and everything. So it's a technology that can be used in various ways. On the question on interest rates, I'm not the expert, so I will.
Thank you everyone for your time. Unfortunately, we've come to the end due to time. I wish we could carry on the discussion till tomorrow, but thanks again to Bongo Hive for having us here. It's been a fruitful discussion. We've discussed what exactly fintechs require for them to be onboarded onto the ecosystem. We've heard about how NFS has actually opened the way for some of these innovations. We've heard of how Kazang is also leveraging on some of these opportunities to extend transactions, for example, to ATMs. We've heard of how the banks, the Standard Bank, are opening through innovation challenges and APIs to some of these fintechs, and also the challenges that the fintechs within the open banking space would face when it comes to trust, dealing with trust, dealing with integration costs, and so on and so forth. So once again, thank you everyone for your time. So many more things, but yeah.